Hey, welcome back. In this episode, I want to talk about the ammunition feed. You can see here I've got clips of ammunition that are triggered or feed into the gun every time a barrel recoils, and that, of course, is all tied into the firing switch. So when the gun's firing, the ammunition feeds into the gun after each cycle of the gun, and when the gun's not firing, the bullets aren't dropping in. And then once the gun is actually empty, the gun reloads itself. So you notice the next time this thing goes into fire mode, the gun bullets go down, and then they're reloaded to give a full stack. All right, so how do we do that? Now, just as a note, going forward, I'm not going to go through all the steps because I assume you've been watching stuff coming up till now. So you should be able to create drivers and go into the driver editor and stuff. So I'm going to kind of skip some of that stuff and just kind of focus on things that I think are new or different or interesting. So first of all, we're going to do this a little bit differently than we've done the others. We're going to use shape keys in combination with the drivers and some data paths. So a little bit different technique. So the first thing to do is to create the shape keys for the bullets. So if we go into the side view, and you can see that I have a duplicate set of ammunition here, and I've figured out where the geometric center of this arc is. Right, so I've just taken basically a line that comes down through these, and these bullets all kind of focus in on this point, and I've made that the origin of my ammunition so that when I rotate it, it rotates along that arc. And I have my origin set here, I have my cursor set here, and I'm in 3D cursor mode. Now the first thing to do is to create a shape key for this guy. So that's easy enough. Come over here, click on shape keys, and we're going to create one as the basis, and we're going to create another one which is going to be the shape of these bullets once they're completely fed into the gun. All right, so let me go into edit mode. So select everything, and I'm going to go to wireframe just so I can see a little better, and I'm going to rotate this all the way down so that that top bullet is all the way down inside the breech. And then I'm going to take this guy. You can see how he penetrates to the bottom. We don't want that, so I'm just going to rotate this up so that he's inside the gun. It doesn't matter that he's overlapping because he's going to be inside the gun and no one's going to see it. So that is our shape key in the applied position. So if we go back into object mode, you can see everything snaps back up. And now we have this shape key, and if I take this value, you can see how the bullets kind of drop down there. And so we're going to now create a driver on this value that coordinates this change in value every time the gun fires. And we're going to use the same tools we used before with this cam, this follower, and this rocker arm to determine when exactly each of these barrels recoils, and then we're going to calculate how much of this value needs to change to make it look as if one round dropped in with each time the gun fires. So let me hide these because I've of course already done this, and I have a left and right feed, and I have shape keys for these guys, and I have a shape key apply here. And if I go to the driver editor, so we have our value, which is this purple value, which is the one we're working on. And you can see I have my expression, and I have two variables, one of which you've seen before, this rocker and follower calculation. So this angle here is just measuring the angle between these two bones. And we can use that to determine whether or not the gun has just fired. So let me go back to the beginning of the animation. And you can see here the value is 0.2 degrees, and that's with this follower right on the edge of the cam. And if I take a step, that value goes to 0.13. Right, so that 0.13 means that the right gun barrel has just recoiled. So that means we want to feed around into the gun. So what we can do is we can look up in our expression here, and we're going to use a value of slightly less than 0.13 to determine whether or not the gun has fired. And before I go into this, I want to talk about this ammo level variable, because this is something I haven't shown you yet. We can use values from the current driver and also include that in our calculations. So how do you do that? So you want to, let's say we add a new variable. In this case, I want to choose key because we're using a key. And here I'm going to choose key. And here I've got this red block, and it's red because I haven't put anything in it yet. And this is the path to that data. If I go over to my key and I right click and I say copy data path, you don't want to do copy full data path. You want to do copy data path. And if I put my cursor in here and hit Control V and then hit enter, what I'm doing now is I'm taking the value from my driver and putting it back into here. So that's what I did up here. You can see these two values are the same. It's the same thing. So I'm going to get rid of this because we don't need a duplicate. And I've called that new value ammo level. And it's going to tell me what's going on down here. So let me go back to the first frame, just so that everything resets. So you can see that right now we're setting with a value of 0, which means that this object here is using the basis for its shape key. So basically, a full clip is being displayed here. And then as that value gets closer and closer to 1, it's going to make it look like these values, or these shells, are dropping into the breech. So how do we do that? We use this expression up here to do it. So 0 in this expression, so 0 is going to be a full clip, right? So we want the ammunition clip to look full if the ammunition basically is empty, as long as, if the ammo level is greater than 1. Remember, 1 is a fully empty clip. So if the ammunition is greater than 1, or frame 1, because I want the ammunition to refill, always start full at the beginning of my animations. So if the ammo is empty, or we're at frame 1, make it a full clip, 0. So basis of 0. Otherwise, we want to take the current ammunition level and then multiply it by some factor that moves the ammunition down by a set amount. Now this value here, angle greater than or equal to 0.129, is referring to the angle of that follower on that cam. All right, remember that was like 0.13 here, this angle. So if the angle is greater than 0.129, it means the gun just fired. And so this acts as a Boolean. It evaluates to 1, and 1 times 0.145 is 0.145, and that's going to increase the ammo level by that amount, which is going to increase this value, which is going to move the shape key a little closer to a full value of 1 here. If for some reason the cam is somewhere else in the animation, so if we go forward a little bit in the animation, and we go back here, this angle here is going to evaluate to 0. It's going to, angle is not going to be greater than 0.129, so this Boolean becomes 0. 0 times 0.145 is 0, so the ammunition level does not change. So the net effect is we're only going to change the shape key if the gun has just fired. Let's just take a quick walk through this and see what it looks like. So if I take a step, and we can see here that the cam is just about to fire. Step, gun fires back. This angle here is now 0.13, which is greater than 0.129, so this becomes a 1. And then we're actually adding 0.145 to our ammunition level, and you can see that it dropped down a bit. And we go again forward. This value is now 0, and it's going to remain 0 until the cam swings all the way around again. And at this point, it's going to go back to 1. It's going to evaluate to 1. We're going to decrement a little bit more. You can see the ammo drops a little bit further. And that's just going to keep going. Every time the cam follows around to the beginning, it's going to drop one more round. And then when we get all the way to the beginning, all the way through, and we got an empty magazine, then this part kicks in, and the clip gets refilled and replenished. And because these angles are controlled by our firing on and off switch, all right, remember we can animate this switch. In fact, I have, so that it's on and off at different times. And when the switch is in the off position, the cams are disengaged, the followers are disengaged from the cam, and therefore the bullets won't drop in because it's always going to evaluate to a 0. And not until the switch gets pulled and the follower starts sitting on the cam again, and then the ammunition starts to feed through. Right, and then of course you would just do the same thing for the other side, but probably with slightly different angles, just because these two, this rocker and this follower have slightly different angles than those two. But the equation is basically the same thing. And that is it for getting the ammunition to feed in. All right, in the next episode we'll add a gun crew to the gun. We'll have a gunner and a trainer, and we'll tie them into the elevation and training mechanisms. I'll see you there.